I will present how the research results from the Green Hospital project promotes green best practice. In this project, we combined 3 research disciplines, which was the economic analysis conducted by the Institute for Economic Studies Basel. Then we have the life cycle assessment, which was conducted by the Zurich University of Applied Sciences and where I collaborated. And the process analysis that was conducted by the Fraunhofer Institute for Material Flow and Logistics. First, I will present the results that I have calculated, and we have evaluated the environmental impact with a life cycle assessment approach. And this environmental evaluation includes the whole life cycle. It is based on hospital-specific data sets modeled within the project, and it uses key data from 33 Swiss hospitals that we collected in a survey. All the results of this evaluation were also communicated to the participating hospitals. So what are the results of our evaluation? We assess different types of environmental impact and will now present the impact on the global warming potential. So this is what we found. Heating has the largest impact with 26% of the global warming potential. Catering is very important, as we heard before from Alexander Mattis as well. It is responsible for 17% of the climate impact. We modeled the amount of meat and number of menus individually for each hospital. The infrastructure is responsible for 15%. The impact was modeled with energy reference area and the infrastructure data from 3 hospitals. Less impact stems from pharmaceuticals, which is here in pink, from medical and housekeeping products and wastewater. And minimal impact stems from textiles, laundry, water use, paper use, and printing and electronic equipment. So this is the average hospital. But what about individual differences? This is the global warming potential of 33 hospitals that we've analyzed individual per full-time equivalents. What we can see here that there's a large variation in both the impact per full-time equivalent as well as the shares between the 33 participating hospitals. Most prominently, we see that the heat, which is red here, and the electricity, which is yellow, has a very high difference. So this shows that there is an untapped potential for increasing environmental efficiency. And this environmental efficiency was evaluated by the Institute for Economic Studies Basel. So what have they analyzed? The aim was to measure the potential of hospitals to improve their environmental impact. So therefore, an efficiency analysis, also known as benchmarking, with respect to environmental impact was calculated. Efficiency analysis is an approach by which we compare one hospital to one or more best hospitals, environmentally efficient hospital. So best implies that the hospital is technically efficient. So it uses the minimal amount of input, here environmental impact, per output, here health provision. So there's 2 ways how to define where this efficiency frontier lies. One is the data envelopment analysis, short DEA. There, actually, you need less assumptions, but you require better data. Another way of analyzing is the stochastic frontier analysis, where it allows for random data errors, but has stricter assumptions. So, what did the results show about the efficiency of hospitals? The technical efficiency using either of the methods, so both the stochastic frontier analysis as well as the data envelopment analysis, show that the median efficiency is somewhere about 50%. So 50% of the hospital could reduce their climate impact without reducing their output, measured as health services. The last box plot here shows the scale efficiency. So the median hospital is almost 100%, which means that changing the size of the hospitals would not improve environmental efficiency. So most of the hospitals are scale efficient. So before I've showed you the impact per different hospital areas, and let's now also have a look about the efficiency of these areas. So this is the results per hospital area, and we see that some areas, as an example, heating, has a very high potential for efficiency increase. This is what we saw before. We saw that there's a high variation in environmental impact in the area of heat. So this is also represented here. What we also see that some of these categories where you may have a high improvement potential, as an example, water use, is not environmentally that relevant. So when you want to focus improvement potential, you should use areas where you have a high option, as a high possibility of increasing efficiency, but at the same time also a high impact. So as an example, catering here. In catering, there is also many hospitals where you can increase the efficiency. We also implemented measures in one hospital in the area of catering. As an example, we provided suggestions for environmentally friendly menus for the canton hospitals of Grisons. The impact of the menus was drastically reduced in the implementation phase. So this is the reference before they changed the menus. This is the implementation after they only used the menus recommended by us. So there's the drastic decrease of more than 50% of climate impact. It was also mirrored in the environmental impact, which was also reduced by 50%. So we have here an example. This is the falafel. It's actually very environmentally friendly if you want to know. And what they also decided is that the standard menu that they choose for new patients is now vegetarian. And they said that they only had little feedback from the patients, and the feedback that they received were positive. So it's an easy way to increase the acceptance also of these types of menus. Generally speaking, the consideration and change of hospital processes are very important, both from the point of view of costs, as well as from the point of view of environmental impact. The Institute for Material Flow and Logistics looked at processes for ordering patient meals. So if we look at this, there's two hospitals that were compared. And the hospital 1 does not use a meal ordering system that is digitalized. Hospital 2 has very optimized processes with a meal ordering system. And when we look at how many percentage of meals come back untouched, which means you have a plate which just comes back like this, and there's like no one has eaten it, no one needs it. So here it's only 2% that return untouched, whereas here it's 9%. So with changing processes, you can actually reduce food waste, the importance of which was already shown by Alexander Mattis in a general view of Switzerland, but it's the same in hospitals. The EML did not only look at meals and food waste, but they also analyzed other processes, namely the process of purchasing. This is looking at how often consumables for the wards in partner hospitals are ordered. And then they also analyzed what would be the optimal frequency of ordering and the optimal amount of optimal quantity. And they found out that 30%, almost 30% was already optimal. But what they also found is that in almost 60%, actually the amount, like how often it is purchased, should be reduced. So if the amount of purchase is reduced, there's two ways why this is good for the environment. One is less of these are lost due to expiration. And the other thing is that maybe you can even reduce the transport if there's less frequent purchases. So in short, there are extremely many ways in which a hospital can reduce their environmental impact, but these options, they have to be easy accessible. So how can we help here? I have a solution for that as well. We compiled a list of best practices for hospitals, focusing on the areas with highest environmental impact. So here is the example heating, where there's different best practice solutions which were implemented in hospitals, so which was shown that they should work. And we also will send this list to stakeholders that can complement the list. And we also received a lot of contact and networking. So we received proactive emails from hospitals and associations like Doctors for Environmental Protection, which is in the middle here. We published articles in magazines for health like Schweizerische Ärztezeitung and Ökoskop here. And we presented our results at conferences like Mail Logistica, or also Life Cycle Management, or Swiss Green Economy Symposium. Our project even influenced Swiss politics. So there was a parliamentary proposal explicitly mentioning Green Hospital, you can see it here at the bottom, who asked how the environmental footprint and global warming potential in the canton of Bern could be reduced. But now I would say there is enough of theory. I would like to go to the practice, and I invite Sabine Mannes from Insel Hospitals to discuss sustainable hospitals. Sabine, are you here?
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Perfect.
Maybe you stop sharing your screen, then we can see you better.
Okay, just now I have to rearrange. Yes. So the carbon footprint of the average Swiss hospital is dominated by energy consumption, catering, and building infrastructure. And how is the situation at the Insel Hospital?
Yes, so we were surprised by some results of the Green Hospital studies, but not by others. So for example, infrastructure is an important emission factor in Switzerland in general. So it wasn't that surprising that it's also an important emission factor on our campus. We were positively surprised by the results concerning energy consumption, electricity and heat. We already have more than 70% of our energy consumption, which is renewable energy. So that's compared to other hospitals, that's already a lot, and it shows that we are on the right path. What was surprising for us was the climate footprint of the catering. We suspected that it had an impact, but that it has such a large impact was surprising. And we definitely have to invest more in that area in the future.
So now you know which areas are relevant, but the question is, which potentials for sustainability optimization do you see in these areas?
So I see a large potential for all these areas. For example, infrastructure. We have the buildings that we're building now will be here for several decades. And the new hospital building that we're building now on the campus is in accordance with the Minergie P Eco standard. It doesn't have to be the Minergie P Eco standard, it can be another sustainable building standard, but the buildings that we're building now need to have some sustainability standard. Another example is catering. We have implemented a food waste program about 3 years ago. We are also promoting, like the hospital in Chur, we are promoting vegetarian and vegan options. But the study showed that we have to promote it even further.
Okay, so there are many good ideas and implementation for greener practices, but which ideas are suitable actually depend a lot of situation, as we saw in our results. And so it always has to be a bit discussed what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. So, which leads me to the next question: what discussions were initiated by the life cycle assessment from our project at Inselspital?
Yeah, so it led to many discussions. For example, we had interactions with our board of directors. We presented the results in several presentations, and I think the discussion is still ongoing. And in the future, we have to decide, what are our next steps? Are we setting a climate goal? Are we taking climate action? So that is part of it. And it has also helped us deciding on priorities. So we had an idea of what emission factors in our hospital are important, but the study confirmed or did not confirm some of our assumptions. And so we can continue with the most important topics in the future.
So I actually guess that such discussions need a lot of energy and time. So my question is a bit, what is your personal motivation for implementing green practices at the Insel Group?
So one motivation, one of my personal motivations is that I think that healthcare and global health is interconnected. We can't separate those two. And so as a hospital that works in healthcare, we just have to take the environmental health into consideration as well in everything what we do. And another personal motivation is that the Inselgruppe is pretty large. We have more than 10,000 employees. And if we can reach only a small part of our employees, 5 to 10%, we can already reach 500 to 1,000 people. So, for example, for a few years now, we have worked with Publibike to promote bike sharing. And now we have already more than 1,000 employees who use Publibike, which is great.
Impressive. So from my point of view, I'm actually also very happy to support people and hospital in their commitment for greener hospitals. So it's fun if I see that things are implemented and not just only discussed. Sometimes it is a bit difficult to come from pure ideas to implementation. So how do you manage to actually put your ideas into practice at Inselgruppe?
So my experience from the past 4 years is that it's usually a combination between a top-down approach and a bottom-up approach. So on the one hand, we need to convince our board of directors that they have to support the strategy, climate goals, sustainability strategy. But on the other hand, we also need a good network among employees to support bottom-up measures. And it's usually that combination of those two approaches that works well.
Okay, that's actually also one of my experiences in this project, that sometimes just the energy from single people sparks change. As an example, there was this one hospital that actually now created a new sustainability group because one person participated in the Green Hospital workshop in February. So I was quite proud when I heard that I actually was one reason why they started this up. And which comes to my next question, which are your next steps towards a green hospital at Inselgruppe?
So one of our next steps is definitely that we're going to try to set a climate goal and work on a climate action plan. And that will include many of those emission factors that you looked at Green Hospital: infrastructure, energy consumption, employee commuting, all that kind of stuff. And what we're also continuing is the communication with other university hospitals. So one of the effects of the Green Hospital study was that the information exchange among the university hospitals in Switzerland, Bern, Basel, Zurich, Lausanne, Geneva is now pretty good, and we share information, we share best practices, and that helps us also to implement measures here in Bern.
Thanks. I also hope that our next network meeting on the 24th of June will have a lot of new people that interconnect and build new networks.